Shalom, Yasharala. This your brother Dawada, coming back at you with the sincere truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that taught us this truth and never will. And salutation and much love for you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth, and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump into this here lesson, which was it's pretty much a response to a video I was watching, as far as why did I forget how it was worded, was why did the Romans take Africans into slavery, right? In which we understand that, we weren't Africans, all right? And these are just their terminologies and things like that, and also having another conversation with somebody else almost just on the same topic. They was, speaking of, the regular things that they teach you in school about, certain things just to try to get away from the Romans or the Edomites taking Jake into captivity. But ultimately, what you have to understand, this is all biblical, all right? These things was all prophesied, all right? So we're going to just jump into a couple of precepts here as far as dealing with those things, all right? So we're going to start here in Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. And the point is to show you that this is, and then, like I said, in the same conversations, people would say, oh, we was created to be slaves. We weren't created to be slaves, man. All right, we're going through something right now, which is a learning experience to be able to learn the difference between good and evil, all right? So this is... let me start there first. Where's that? Romans. Let me start at verse 20. It says, Romans 8 and 20 says, for the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who have subjected the same in hope, because the creature itself shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of the Most High. So when you hear about, the so-called fallen angels and things like that, it's talking about us Israelites, all right? But let me read it again. It says, for the creature, which is the Israelites, was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who have subjected the same in hope. So this was all according to the Most High's plan, all right? So now let's go back to Deuteronomy chapter 28. I'm going to read verse 15 real quick. It says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee, right? And so as the time played out, you'll understand that, Jake wound up going off, all right? So let me go grab that real quick. Where's that? Micah chapter 7 and verse 9, it says, I will bear the indignation of Yahweh, because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. So we wind up breaking the law, statutes, and commandments, all right? That, we made a covenant with the Most High. So this is our punishment for doing so, right? So now let's go back to Deuteronomy. We're going to start at, let me see. Matter of fact, let me go to read something else first. This is Deuteronomy. Well, let me start up a little bit and I'm going to jump down. This is Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 5. It says, they have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. All right, talking about the children of Israel. All right, because why? We were rebellious against the Most High. Just like when you read in Ezekiel chapter 2 and 3, where it talks about that this is a rebellious, the children of Israel are a rebellious nation. All right, stiff-necked. All right, let me jump down to verse 15. All right, it says, but Jezreel waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook the power which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. All right, so just like when you're dealing with parents and children relationship, you can do certain things that tick your parents off, and then they'll want to bring down that punishment on you. They may take away certain things. They may discipline you however they see fit. All right, and this was, our discipline, right? We were, quote unquote, kicked out the house. All right, had to go fend for ourselves, and this is what we were about to read. It says, verse 16, they provoked him to jealousy with strange gods and abominations, provoked they him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils, not unto God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came up newly, whom your fathers feared not. And, our people are still doing these things to this same day, man. All right, you got to think back in those olden days where, they were witnessing, them actually walking up out of Egypt. They were witnessing the walking on the dry ground of the right now when we're waking up to who we are, you have our people that are still in rebellion. All they want to go do their own thing. Verse 18, of the rock that begot thee thou art unmindful and has forgotten the power that formed thee. And when Yahweh saw it, abhorred him because of the provoking of his sons and daughters. Verse 20 says, and he said, I will hide my face from them, and I will see what their end shall be, for they are very forward generation, children of whom is no faith. So like I was just saying about, you parents and children's relationship, you may have a situation where, the parent is telling the child to do certain things, get their act together. They don't want to get their act together. Maybe, oh, he's staying in my house, you need to go get a job or this and that, and they don't want to hearken into those things. So now the parent's like, you know what? All right, you got to get up out of my house and you got to fend for yourself. Let's see how, how good you got it then. Because you think everything is all fine and dandy right now. But look, once you get out there on the streets by yourself, then you're going to have to fend for yourself. You'll no longer have my covering over you, right? Verse 21, it says, they have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities. I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people, and I will provoke them to anger with the foolish nation. All right, so going into these things, you understand that we wind up going off. And so now this is what the Most High brought down upon us as our punishment. All right, so now let's go back to Deuteronomy 28, and we're going to start at verse 64. Oh, no, Salat. Verse 47. It says, because thou servest not Yahweh thy power with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. All right, and that's what happened unto us. First they had that actual yoke of iron around our neck. All right, and it wasn't destroying us off the planet Earth. But look at our people now, man. They're walking around calling themselves any and everything else but the children of the Most High, the Israelites, all right? They want to be any and everything, they're just backwards right now. You got them out there sagging their pants and wanting to be thoughts. All the things that, we was commanded not to do, this is what they're doing right now. When Jake feel like they're on some type of level and they got a little bit of money, they try to flaunt these things by doing what? Eating all the abominable foods that we're not supposed to be eating, like, oh, we about to have a crab feast, a shrimp broil. These types of things like that, and when you understand what's really going on, like, damn, our people are so far destroyed, man. Are they going further and further away from the things that they weren't supposed to be doing? You're not supposed to be making cuttings in your flesh for the dead and things, but then you have people like Lil Wayne that's tattooed from head to toe, man. All right. It says, verse 49, Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of earth, as swift as an eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, and increase of thy kine, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. All right, so going into these things, these were the judgments that was pronounced upon the children of Israel, because why? We didn't hearken unto the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments. We wanted to do the opposite. So this was our punishment. All right. So you have to understand that, look, well, let me keep reading on down. It says, he will besiege thee in all thy gates until the high and the fence walls come down, wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land, and he will besiege thee in thy gates throughout all thy land, which Yahweh thy power hath given thee. And thou shalt eat of the fruit of thy own body, and the flesh of thy sons and thy daughters, which Yahweh thy power hath given thee, and the siege and the straitness wherewith thy enemies shall distress thee. So, going into these things, I think that was pretty much what I wanted to grab. Let me jump down. All right, let me jump down to 64. And Yahweh thy power will scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth, even to the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So going up to what we were just reading, the Most High was going to send a fierce nation upon us, and they was going to destroy all of our so-called safety nets, the high walls and everything like that, besiege our cities, and then wind up taking us captive. All right. Once they took us captive, they was going to, scatter us throughout the whole four corners of the earth. All right. And then it was going to oppress us and keep us in the captivity the whole time. Not because they wanted to or anything like that. Like, at the end of the day, it's all according to the scriptures. All right. And among these nations thou shalt find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But Yahweh shall give thee a trembling of heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and thou shalt have no assurance of thy life. All right, so going into these things, well, let me just finish it off. And in the morning thou shalt say, would the Most High were even, and even thou wilt say, would the Most High were morning, for the fear of thy heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thy eyes which thou shalt see. All right, because this is going to be a hard, oppressive, depressing life that you would be living in captivity. All right. Verse 68, and Yahweh shall bring you into Egypt again with ships. This is how we got over to the Americas. All right, really into the four corners of the earth on those cargo slave ships. By way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more, and there thou shalt be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. All right, now we're reading here in the book of Deuteronomy. This is way before, we actually went in those cargo slave ships and was brought over here to the Americas and throughout the four corners of the earth. All right, but again, these things was all prophesied from the beginning. All right, because why? We wound up breaking the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High, and this was our punishment that we would have to serve out. All right, it wasn't because Esau was stronger than us. If anything, we're stronger than him, like the prophecies say. The elder shall serve the younger. All right, the first one that came out was Esau, so he's going to ultimately serve us. Right, the elder shall serve the younger, and one nation shall be stronger than the other. So we're physically stronger than him. All right, how is it that he was able to take us down? All right, because it was all according to the prophecies, man. All right, the Most High had these things written, in the story of life before they even started taking place. All right, now they would say, let me grab this, because in the video I was watching, they were trying to allude it to the resources, and it was all basically about resources and things like that. But when you read about these things, again, that was even a part of prophecy and scriptures. All right, this is Genesis 27 and verse 40 or 39. All right, this is Isaac blessing Esau with his blessing. All right, it says, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven above. All right, so going into just that, let me keep reading verse 40. And by thy sword thou shalt live and serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. So he was going to live by the sword. So Esau, how it all played out, he went in, by way of the sword, forcing of war and things like that. All right. And wound up taking over the planet Earth and enslaving us, and then there is a sense of, oh, he did it for the resources. But then you have to understand, like we read in verse 39, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. So he was going to have the earth and all the resources thereof. So that was just how it all played out. Oh, well, Esau started, when he, during the, what they call it, the Renaissance period, all right, he came back out and started taking over everything and whitewashing everything and all these different things. But see, it was important for him to take the Israelites into captivity. He wasn't taking these other nations into captivity like that, man. All right. But nevertheless, it was the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans that was taken into captivity because, popular to contrary belief, the so-called Latinos and Native Americans, they went into captivity first. Then they want to bring in Judah over and putting them into captivity. Let me see if I can find that real fast. So, Lockie, give me a second. Is it 33 or something? Yeah, 33. Jeremiah 50 and 33, it says, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were pressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast and refused to let them go. So we're still in that same position even unto this same day, because why? It was prophesied about these things. All right, let me go and grab another one real quick. In the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 9 and verse 12 says, and he hath confirmed his words. He hath confirmed his words which he spake against us and against our judges that judge us, right? Because this was all a part of the prophecies, right? By bringing upon us a great evil, and the great evil was going into what? The curses that, we were reading a little bit of in Deuteronomy chapter, Deuteronomy 28, Salat. It says, by bringing upon us a great evil, for under the whole heaven have not been done, have been done unto Jerusalem. So a part of us having this downfall and us going into captivity and things like this was all prophesied based off of, how the Most High had this whole thing set up. All right. He knew that from the beginning, all right, we was going to go through this here path. We was perfect. We was going to have our falling away first. Let me grab that real quick. We can close out there. Just to show you that this is all according to prophecy. All right. We didn't go into captivity, into slavery because, Esau was just stronger than us, or he's, whatever. They have this thing called, I forgot how they call it, like divine something, where it's basically saying, well, this was just how it's supposed to be from the Most High. When you think about it, like technically it is, when they have the expansion over here in Americas and things like that. I forgot the term that they use, but they have a term for it. But nevertheless, it's basically just saying because this is just how it was supposed to be. And ultimately that is technically correct, going into the scriptures, but they don't finish it off. They think that, like the scriptures say, they think that their lands are going to go on forever, but ultimately they're going to be taken out of power and they're going to be judged and they're going to go into captivity under us. Then they're going to be eradicated. All right. 2 Thessalonians 2:3 says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed. So going into that falling away, all right, let me grab that as well too. So let me remember, we just read about that. They had to come a falling away first. All right. Psalms 83:2, it says, for lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel be no more in remembrance. All right. So now if you read on further down, these are the same people that wound up taking us into captivity, had a hand in our captivity and things like this. But you have to understand these things was all written before these actions actually took place. All right. So you have to understand these things was all prophesied. This was all the plan of the Most High. So, we didn't go into captivity because it was just a luck of the draw, and, Romans wanted to expand and gain, get territory and resources, which, again, that's how it all played out, for them to get the fatness of the earth, because that's also a prophecy that had to be fulfilled. We're looking at multiple different prophecies, like there had to be a falling away first. All right. And that will take place of us going into captivity. All right. And them beating it up out of us and whitewashing everything. All right. Esau getting the fatness of the earth, and all these different things came by way of, how, they would say, oh, they wanted more and more resources and things like that, but ultimately, like I said, this is all according to the Most High's plan and according to his movie. All right. But ultimately, let me leave you with this. Ultimately, which one do I want to read? I'm going to read it in Isaiah. Ultimately, the tables are about to turn. This is Isaiah 14. And, I'll read 1 and 2. It says, for Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob, which is Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. All right, because we're in the land of our captors right now. It says, and strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave into the house of Jacob, the other Israelites, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and for handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So this is how the story winds up ending. All right. So, we're not going to be slaves forever. We weren't created just to be slaves, because, with like Darwinism and things like that, they would say, oh, we're the inferior race. So, this is why we was taken into captivity and things like that. No, we was taken into captivity first and foremost because of, the fact of it's the will of the Most High. All right. And it was also told unto us that the fact of if we didn't obey the words of the Most High, that this was going to be the punishment that came upon us. And this was told to us before we even went off. So as it all played out and we wound up going off, all right, we wound up going into captivity after captivity after captivity after captivity. Man, we can even go back to Nebuchadnezzar's dream about these different nations or not to say nations, these different world ruling class nations, more or less to say kingdoms. All right. And every one of those, we was there building them up, but we was in captivity and all of them. But these was the times that the heathen were able to rule and have their time and their dominion. All right. But now ultimately, we're about to come up out of that state of being under their rulership. And then we're going to be put into our own stead and we're going to have dominion over the whole earth. All right. And rule forever. All right. But I'm going to go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, this here lesson was edifying unto the elect. Until next time, I say, call halal, Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, Aki, and pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Until next time, I say, stay strong. Shalom.